What's that like for you? When people see you, do they rush up and want to talk to you, or do they run away?
It's a bit of both. Well, I felt for this lady. I got out of my car the other week and I hadn't had any makeup on. My hair was quite frizzy. And I got out and she just went, ah! And I was like, oh. And she went, I'm so sorry, I've just finished episode 7 and left my house. And I was like, hi. So that must have been terrifying. She was, I'm so sorry. Be just outside a door. Hello.
Thank you so much for being here. This is an audience of your fellow actors. These are all SAG-AFTRA actors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And thank you for that. That was really, wow, that was lovely. Yeah, thank you.
So they're a tough crowd, I will tell you. I don't see them that often. So I actually always like to start by asking, what was your first job in this business? The first time you felt you could call yourself an actor, whether it was professional or you got paid or not?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I still, even to this day, have this like fraudulent sort of insecurity about the whole thing. I don't know. It's funny. I don't know. That's a really good question. I mean, I started getting like, yeah, this is good wisdom. Yeah, I should probably leave at this point. No, it's funny. It's always, it's like an ongoing process. Because I think it's funny because Jess, I don't know. It was always funny. I remember on set having this conversation with you once, and I said, "So do you get nervous?" And you're like, "No, not really." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? I'm like throwing up in the wings." So like, I was always, whenever I did like any show, I'd do like comedy shows, and I'd be performing to like 5 people, and I would be like throwing up in a bucket outside the venue, so the crippling sort of nerves and sort of anxiety, but then oddly finding the whole thing kind of escapism at the same time. But I don't know. I sort of went full time in 2016, and that's when I started getting kind of regularly. Yeah. It took a while to get to that point as well, and that's when I suppose I started sort of calling it. But I got an acting job. I got an acting job called Against the Law, where I played a soldier, and it was all about how it was the story of how gay activity was legalized in Britain. So it was set in the 1950s, and I come from a comedy background, but I got cast in this kind of romantic lead in this sort of film on the BBC, and it was like a really bold casting choice in a way to cast this sort of weird comedian that never made anyone laugh in this sort of role, and it was this big celebrated film, and it went on to get BAFTA nominated and everything like that. And I suppose I was like, well, I suppose I could probably call myself an actor now.
Yeah, I think it's
very long-winded response, so apologies.
I was wondering, I was like, is it going to take a second worldwide hit series on Netflix for you to finally say you're an actor?
I don't. Well, we'll see. We'll see how my self-flagellation goes between now and then.
Jessica, for you?
I'm trying to think, actually. When I was little, they used to film a show in the little village where I'm from, in Yorkshire, called Where the Heart Is. And they used our school in a 6 weeks holiday, and they used all of us as extras, and they needed a bully. And when I was little, I used to, not little, I just like a teenager, I've got no excuse, I used to wear like a backwards no fear cap, because I was kind of cool like that. And so they singled me out as the bully, and basically the storyline was like this main girl who was actually an actor, her mum had died, and she'd made this rubbish uniform for the school play of like a bin bag. And then I was in the toilets and I had to say, hasn't your mum got a sewing machine? And then it's sad because her mum's died. She hasn't got a sewing machine. So I think that, and they singled me out to do that. So there's stats out there somewhere. So that was like my first, but that was about 16.
Well, still.
Yeah, still, there we go. And then I was in Doctor Who. That was my first kind of official thing. Yeah.
Doctor Who, over here we have Law and Order.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone does Law and Order over there, I feel like.
Well, I've done that as well. Law and Order UK. I play Ange, the CCTV lady, as you all know. But no.
Nava, for you?
Well, I kind of ran away from acting over and over, and it kept running back to me. I studied linguistics. I worked as a counselor. I just did not ever envision that I could have a professional career as an actor. And then I decided that I wanted to be a showrunner, and so I wanted to write, and then I was like, well, maybe I'll make a short film. And so I made a short, and I acted in that. And then the next summer I was cast on a series called Generation on HBO Max. And everything has changed since that moment. Yeah.
You're making it sound like you really tried to stay away from acting and we just kept pulling you back in.
One of the lucky ones.
Yes. Well, again, congratulations on such an original, brave, and necessary series. Richard, I know that this is based on your Olivier Award-winning one-man show, but obviously it's such a different animal in the television medium. When did you first start thinking about trying to adapt it to the screen? And originally, did you even think it would be possible?
Yeah, it's funny. When I started off as a plague, I remember when I was getting stalked in the height of it all, I remember I was listening to she was phoning me so often and leaving all these like scary voicemails, basically. And I remember I would listen to them because a threat would. Have we seen the whole show? We've just seen the 2 episodes of most of the show.
But everyone here, has anyone here seen this for the first time?
Okay,
wow.
So it's about half and half. Oh, I'm giving spoilers now.
No, we're getting into spoilers. I got to warn you.
No, and I would listen to the voicemails because if she was to leave me a threat as I listened to them, you could expedite the case because it was the threat of harm. And I remember most of it was just someone waffling on and waffling on and waffling on, but I would just listen to it all the time. I'd go to a meeting in town and I'd plug my headphones in, get the tube back home, listening to her. And I remember I was in bed at night and my eyelids would be closed and I'd see her like words like bouncing around my eyelids. And I remember thinking, well, if I do that as a play, I'd bounce the words around the stage in projector light, like words, and mirror her sort of speech language like that. And that's how the sort of play was born. And when I started to write the play, I was like, well, it's kind of thrilling and the character's kind of weird. And, I kept thinking, oh, this does have sort of televisual potential. It was kind of in the back of my mind that it was kind of like a weird psychological thriller in a way. And I thought all my shows before were very sort of high concept and not all that readily televisively adaptable. But with this, I started to, as I was writing the play, started to think about the TV show in a way. And then when I started to get interest, I sort of almost had it ready in my head as to what I was going to say. I remember Netflix brought me in and they were kind of like, oh, do you ever think about how you'd adapt it? And I almost had it sort of planned in my head, including like the emails over, full screen and all that kind of stuff. And and they were kind of like, let's give it a shot. So it was a bit of a crazy journey, yeah.
I love that this audience can probably so relate to you. You can be going through the most horrible, traumatic thing in your life, and there's a part of you as an artist that is like, I can use this somewhere down the line.
Yeah, no.
You know that, right?
Yeah, no, I'm going to have to, I'm running out of material. I'm going to have to go walking down some dark alleyways. See what happens to me. But it was, it's a form of kind of release and, and getting through difficult times. It's certainly provided a lifeline for me down the years,
And I mean, obviously, one of the biggest changes is in the show, you basically played all these characters and you've put together this flawless ensemble. Jessica and Nava, I really want to know how you became aware of this project and what was your initial response, because Baby Reindeer doesn't lend itself to like a 20-second elevator pitch, but you were already familiar with Richard's work because you'd seen one of his shows, right?
Yeah, I'd seen Monkey See, Monkey Do, which is kind of what happens in episode 4 of the show. And then I tried to get in to see Baby Reindeer, the stage show, but it was sold out. So I actually bought the play text of that and read that back into like 2019, which was a little bit martyr of me. But then when the script came through and said audition for Baby Reindeer, I was like, oh my God, yeah. So, and not to be too kind of gushy, but it really was the best thing I've ever read. I read it all in one kind of go, and I just remember just being completely consumed by it. I was just like, this is like amazing. I thought it translated so well, and I think that Richard's just an amazing writer. So yeah, I've always been a massive fan, but I was so pleased to get that in my inbox, as it were. Yeah.
At the same time, I mean, were you thinking even back when you were, you're seeing his other show and like reading the script, were you thinking like this could never work on television?
I always thought, I think even the Monkey See, Monkey Do is quite... it's the way he tells stories is so interesting. I thought it could translate to film, TV, anything really. I obviously didn't see the stage show of Baby Reindeer, but I think the characters of Donnie and Martha are fascinating. I thought this definitely could work. Yeah.
And Nava, for you, when you weren't actively running away from acting.
Well, by that point, I had chosen the path, But I came in as an audition. I did a self-tape on my computer in my room, in the little corner where the setup is, And then I did a callback. I was actually at a film festival and had to work on it at night after my roommate had gone to sleep, and I was like trying to read it, sneak, and like journal, and then I had to tape my own, I had to be my own reader. And I remember I asked Richard, I was like, did you notice that I was kind of whispering in my second scene? Because I didn't want to wake up my roommate. But anyway, so I had a very similar experience, you know. I felt so privileged to get to read Richard's voice and to feel so connected to it. And then for Terry to come along and, you know, it felt like in a parallel universe, maybe I could have been Terry, you know? And so that's really rare for me. You know, I'm a trans woman, I'm a Latina woman. It's really like, it's really like 2 or 3 roles a year for us. And so it's very, very lucky that I have had this opportunity and that it has meant so much to me and it just felt right. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I also read the play. It was just phenomenal. Best thing I ever read. Yeah.
It's such a strange word to use, but the chemistry between the cast is so integral to the story. Did you have any kind of a chemistry read with either actor?
Yeah, we did do chemistry reads. Yeah, we did. The casting process was long. Like, it was a long old process and a very particular process. And, you know, it was quite hard to sort of. It was almost like it's funny because you can see. We saw so many amazing actors and stuff, but it's like you're kind of looking almost for a transcendental energy sometimes in a person. Like, sometimes the characters that you can't really describe, you know, in prose almost how you want them to be. It's like you're looking for a sort of energy. And I remember I really felt the first time I saw you both doing it that was the energy of the characters that I was trying to capture on the page. But it's a long process, you know, and there's so many people have to sign off and so many people feed in and all this kind of stuff, and you're begging and pleading and all this kind of stuff. But I couldn't be happier. I wouldn't change a single cast member, not one. And I hear that's pretty rare.
Yeah. Well, I'm also interested because I don't know if you'd been on the other side of casting before. You probably had, actually. But did it help you as an actor to realize? I think, like, you know, actors, it feels like they're being rejected when they don't get a role. But it's so not about what you can do in that room.
Oh, it's crazy. And I think that's something that I learned being on the other side of the table. There's so many reasons why people don't get a part, and actually most of the time it actually doesn't come down to the acting. I mean, sometimes it's like how that your height measures up next to the person you're going to be acting across. Sometimes it comes down to some of the strangest things, the sound of someone's voice, the kind of how their voice would match to another person's voice. And, you know, there's so many reasons. So it's very hard not to feel defeated sometimes when you keep getting knocked back after knockback. But you have to remember, I felt like, I don't think like people did bad auditions in Baby Reindeer. I think the very fact that you're sending tapes out to these agents and you're getting in, you must have something for people to be taking these chances on you. So it's very important to not get disheartened because really casting comes down to so much more than just the ability to act. So yeah.
I think if you're at that point, you're probably only seeing good actors. You're not seeing like many bad tapes, and then it's just an issue of finding that magic.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I was looking for an energy, and I was probably annoying everyone, just being like, "Hey, I know that was amazing, but is this a sort of like, it's like it's like I'm looking for a you know,
do you think they should put that in the breakdown? We're looking for a
Yeah. You know, so it's hard to describe, and and you fall down the whims and the idiosyncrasies of just the people in the room sometimes, and you just can't explain why someone's right. They just feel right, and it's like a guttural response. So.
Nava, you mentioned, you know, what a particularly awesome role this was, and I'm curious because you mentioned doing a self-tape, and I just think that so often actors have to do a self-tape and send it off and not think about it and put it out of their mind. But were you thinking about this role because it is so specific and special? That's going to be a hard one to let go of.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about it because I normally like to. You know, the role is mine during the audition, and I feel so lucky for those 2 hours to have played that character, and then it's gone. And if it comes back, then it was meant to come back. But this one was really hard to let go of. I was bugging my manager. I was calling my agents, but I was, willing to let the process be what it needed to be. And it was like 6 weeks later. Then I went to London for the chemistry read, and I was remembering. I don't know if you remember this, Richard. So in episode 3, in that scene, originally Terry like throws a glass at the wall. And so they gave me some like camera bag that I had to throw at the wall. And they had told me where to throw it to be safe and everything. And I don't know, just in the moment, I threw it like right towards Richard, like past him. Like I have good aim. I was not trying to hit him. But that was what the moment called for, but then we stopped kind of, and I think we immediately were like, "Are you okay?" And it was just, it clicked, I think, and then Richard was like, "That's acting." I was like, "Okay."
So actors throw things at your writer. That's a good place to start. I do want to talk about all of you preparing to play these characters because I think most actors, I would hope, would want to approach a role with empathy and understanding. And these are very complicated characters. Where did you even begin? I mean, with understanding Martha, or maybe you didn't want to understand her, but I think what's so beautiful about her is that we do.
Yeah, I absolutely felt like I did in a way. I think it's because of how Richard wrote her. I think as soon as I read the script, she just was so clear to me, and that's why I kind of fought for it as well. I went in about 4 times, actually, embarrassingly, to audition though. And then from my first email, I think, to when I got offered the part, it was about 4 months. And I heard on the grapevine that one of the question marks was about the age difference between me and Richard, because there isn't that much of an age gap in real life. So I got a friend of mine to like put a wig on me, because I was like, make me look a bit older. Let's try and see if we can do it, and then send that through. Oh dear.
It was almost like a pound shop wig.
I was like, guys, will this work? But I always felt really connected to the part, and I felt that he'd written her in such a sympathetic, nuanced way, and I think that's what's so amazing about the show in general. It's about messy characters who make mistakes, who aren't kind of good or bad. They just kind of bumble along and find each other in this time of their lives when they kind of need each other in a way. So I never really didn't connect with her. I think that's why I kind of really fought to kind of be her, because I just felt like I got it so quickly from his writing. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many layers at work here, because she's manic, she's terrifying, she's sweet, sometimes all in the same scene. By the way, how did you sort of perfect that balance? Like on set, would you do takes different ways, or did you just sort of know her tone? And also, sometimes it gets found in the editing room, I know.
Yeah, I think it's definitely can be found and changed in the edit for sure. But I think me and Richard and Veronica, the block kind of one direct who set the tone for the show, we ended up having quite a nice dialogue between the three of us, where if it was like just a bit off balance, we'd kind of check in and just make sure every beat was right, because obviously it's so clearly on the page, just wanting to make sure it translated into each of the scenes and wasn't going too over the top, it wasn't too unbelievable, just because there were so many ups and downs, sometimes, like you say, in the same scene. But Richard was so amazing with kind of checking in and saying if he was happy with stuff, it felt like it was needed another thing, and we'd have several takes as well as to give it a go. So yeah.
What about for you? I mean, was it ever challenging to be in that headspace? And I know you're an actor, but sometimes when you're putting your body through these things, it doesn't know the difference.
Yeah, I think the body, it's interesting, isn't it? The body doesn't really know that you're pretending. Mm-hmm. And so it was, you have an adrenaline, and sometimes at the end of the day, it feels like you've done a play and you can't really switch off. I think a big day for all of us was the scene with me and Nava when, it's in the pub in episode 3. But also I think that I've never felt you performing that way, because obviously once the fight happens, Donnie kind of throws me out of the pub, and I remember shaking after that first take. Do you remember?
End of episode 3.
End of episode 3 when you say "get out of my life," and we actually missed our mark because we just went for it on the first take. So I'm kind of pushed up, and they've used that take in the show against this table I'm not meant to be near. But just because it was so like raw in the moment, I think they used the first take for that. But after that, I remember just physically being like, "Ooh, that was good. Oh, you're a good actor." I was like, "Blink your neck." Yes, it's like whoa. And so you have amazing days like that, where you just kind of can't switch off for ages. Yeah.
And Nava, for you, I mean, I think of maybe all the characters in this show. Terry might be the one whose headspace I'd most like to be in. She's pretty damn cool. But how did you sort of prepare for some of these intense scenes?
Well, I live in LA, so I don't know. That wasn't a joke. That was the fact, But it filmed in London, so I had to go film in chunks instead of me going to actually live there. And it created this kind of nice rhythm where I would be here for a couple weeks and I'd be preparing whatever we were going to film the next time I go, and I would come back. And so I work with an acting coach, and when it was time to prepare for that scene, I mean, I was terrified. I was so scared. There's so many layers that we have to uncover, and the end of that episode is so beautifully written. It kind of all rests on that final moment with Terry, and so I kind of built the emotional landscape of that moment, and like the structure that exists within her mind in terms of the relationship with Donnie and her own backstory with her family and her trauma, the public humiliation, the things that Martha is saying that are transphobic and xenophobic. All of those pieces had to be kind of built out and have their own place so that when everything gets knocked over and she's on the floor, it's like I can recognize all the pieces and in the moment just pick them up as needed. So I kind of built that emotional map so that when I went to London, then it was just the technical stuff.
Yeah.
And so on the day, I just felt really equipped. I felt really safe with Jess. We had a great time at stunt training. It's truly like, hi, nice to meet you. Okay, straddle me,
One iteration we had this one where I like head slammed you.
Oh right, we were trying to head slam.
Do that, yeah.
Ooh, yeah, the head slam. It was, it was
Very
funny.
intense.
What's funny about stunts is that doing them is fun and doesn't hurt and is like kind of like a great exercise. But what they did is they would film us in the training doing the stunt, and then you remember when we would watch the video, we would be like, oh, like it would hurt to then see you slamming my head. So yeah, we did not do a head slam. But yeah, I think it was great to do it with Jess because we did have to go there,
Oh, I thought you wanted to add something.
No, I just remember that stunt guy.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. I always remember it. It's because I remember I was supposed to go to the fight training, but it was like a Saturday, and I was like, I've been filming all week, and I thought I'd do it, and it came through, and it was just like really. I always wanted it to be like a really scrappy fight, like a messy fight, like fights are, because I always sort of like on television, whenever anything was too smooth, I always felt like because real fights are just like a mess, and then but every time we did a fight, that guy he was funny. He turned up to set. He's like, right, I'll give you one that you like, and I've got one of mine. And it was like, how about a roundhouse kick? Yeah. And I'm like, what?
Martha just there with like nunchucks.
No, I tell you what was just, but he would always do it was like the Matrix.
Yeah.
And I was like always trying to pull him back to, this is quite like a real life sort of situation. He was so funny. He had a COVID mask and he put it up sometimes on his hat and it'd be like a fin on his head. He was funny, wasn't he, that guy? Yeah.
Matt's like really strapped for time. He'd be like, one more for me. And we're like, we're okay. We've got to crack on. He's like, and slam.
Pick up the book, put in the face, elbow. No. Oh, it's funny. He was a funny guy. Yeah.
And every fight I've ever seen in real life, once it's passed and you realize it's not serious, they look funny. You know,
Yeah.
they're kind of silly. It's kind of funny to see two adults fighting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually want to talk to you about preparing for this role, which may sound silly because even though it's based on your story, I don't think there is such a thing as quote unquote playing yourself. And, you know, talking about having to approach a role with empathy, were you able to, you know, give that to yourself in your character?
It was kind of, yeah, I mean, I wanted to sort of see it as a different character. It was very much like indicative of a very sort of troubled period in my life. I really wanted to go back there. I guess I'm one of those actors that kind of likes to try and get into kind of headspace. And I just shot this film, not the film, TV series called Wedding Season. Has anyone seen Wedding Season?
I don't think it's out here yet, if it's the one I'm thinking of.
Oh, no, I just don't think anyone's watched it. I think it is out here. I think it is. Yeah, no. I
just heard about
No, it is. No, it's on
Everybody's
Disney.
busy watching Baby Reindeer. We don't have time.
No, I didn't. No, it was out like years ago. It was. No one watched it, but I played this like villain in it, and I kind of one of these things. Like I always hate like going to set and just like they'll put a bit of makeup on and I'll just go as me.
Yeah.
I always try and like want to look different. I always really try and convince like the productions that I'm on to like transform in some way because it just helps me sort of get into it. So Wedding Season, I remember I played, I was like a super villain in it. It was a really fun role. I had like tattoos and weird haircut and all this stuff. And I dirty bulked to do it. So I was about 16 stone when I did that. And I was really, really massive. And then Baby Reindeer, going out of a sort of post, drugs sort of fueled, abuse fueled life, when I always look back on my life in that period of time and I was like rake thin. And so I really wanted to go back and feel that kind of fragile in my body and feel like emotionally fragile because I just needed to kind of feel that again to sort of get back. So I went from 96 kilograms down to 68.
Can someone convert that real quick? Pounds?
Oh yeah, pounds. A whole different system.
I know
isn't
it's
it?
huge.
It was about a third. It was about a third of my body weight, I think it was in the end. And it meant that I was on set, and I was still writing the show and everything. It was like real kind of like quite self-punishing. But I needed to kind of. I'm one of those people. I just need to kind of stay in it a bit, So on set, I was often in corners, just like sort of like. Brooding away kind of thing. I remember like when I do the monologue in episode 6, for 2 days straight, just trying to stay in that sort of place, I sometimes think you get two different types of actors sometimes. You get ones that kind of, I mean, Danny Mays, I love that guy. He's so good. He pisses about, and action cries his eyes out, and cut, pisses about, and then you get. And I'm more the other camp where I sort of like if I'm laughing that day, then I'll have a laugh. If I'm crying that day, I need to keep to myself, kind of thing. So I had to go through a sort of transformation because I wasn't the same guy. This is an old version of me from years and years and years ago. So I sort of still had to get back in it in a way. Yeah.
Well, since you mentioned the monologue scene, I am curious about when you shot it. 2 days. I can't even imagine. And so it took 2 days to shoot it. Did you do it through completely each time, or did you stop and start?
Yeah, it was actually 18 minutes long, that monologue, and we cut it down to 6 minutes in the edit. So it was 18 minutes long, and I do it all the way through. And then when we got to the edit, I insisted that we only use take one. So the one we only used was scene one, take
You're
one,
kidding.
all the way through, because. I don't know. There was just something raw about it. But we did so many takes from behind, from the front, from wides, and all this kind of stuff. But in the edit, I really wanted it to be quite stylized. I didn't want to cut too much to the audience. I wanted it to stay kind of on his face. But yeah, that whole take is one take in that episode. Yeah, but we did loads of them. I was crying for like 2 days straight.
I'm exhausted watching it. I can't imagine doing that all day.
Yeah. No, that was intense. There was some intense scenes for us all. I remember Nava, that scene that she was talking about a second ago. I remember you being on the floor for about 20 minutes. It was intense. Like Baby Reindeer was tough for everyone. Do you know what I mean? And you in the courtroom every time.
Well, I remember that at the end of episode 3, Terry is crying and can't stop crying, and we just had to do takes in a row, and I didn't. Everyone was Richard and Veronica kind of came up to me and were like seemed really concerned, like scared to touch me, and I was like, okay, what's happening? Like, are we doing another take? Like, I just needed them to tell me, and I was like, can we be done? Are we done? Are we done? And then they didn't know if I was in character. I think camera was still rolling. Like, I didn't know what was happening. And then finally they were like, oh, yes, we're finished. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. Y'all want to go get a drink? You know, I was just like, oh my God, though. Yeah, because you just have to stay in it for some of those. At least the stage that I'm at with acting, I just cannot come in and out, you know?
I mean, we hope art entertains, and we hope that people will respond to it. But you know, something like this that like actually changes lives. And I know, forgive me if I get the facts wrong, but it's something like it's been like a 200% increase in survivors reporting.
Yeah. So. Oh no, thanks. Yeah, no, it's amazing. Yeah, no. All stalking and abuse charities are on the up. But there's the main sexual abuse charity for men in Britain is called We Are Survivors, and they're up 200% in terms of referrals, and 53% cite Baby Reindeer as the reason why. Wow. And then we're working closely with the Susie. Thank you, the Lampew Trust, and that's like the legacy. Yeah. That I want the show to have, really, you know.
And I mean, that's huge, the societal impact. But aside from that, the response to the show has been so overwhelming. Was there a moment you sort of realized this was like a worldwide phenomenon? Like you see, you know, Martha merchandise out there.
That's crazy, that. Yeah. All over Etsy. Donnie doesn't have a single cup. Aww. Martha, all over Etsy.
Poor Donnie. Respect. What's that like for you? When people see you, do they rush up and want to talk to you, or do they run away?
It's a bit of both. Well, I felt for this lady. I got out of my car the other week and I hadn't had any makeup on. My hair was quite frizzy. And I got out and she just went, ah! And I was like, oh. And she went, I'm so sorry, I've just finished episode 7 and left my house. And I was like, hi. So that must have been terrifying. She was like, I'm so sorry. Me just outside a door. Hello.
That's the highest compliment, though, that you can get as an actor. I absolutely love that. What's it been like for you to have this, you know, this overwhelming response, and something that I know because, you know, I was this person. I talked your ear off yesterday. I apologize.
No.
But like people, you know, they relate to this so much, and they probably want to share their personal experiences. It has to be like beautiful but overwhelming.
Yeah, it was crazy, you know. I mean, people. Yeah, I mean, I'm very touched by some of the messages I get, and some of the people coming up to me and saying things, and it was crazy. It was this thing, and I'm not sure what I really believed in the show, but it really felt like one day it went on the platform, and the next day there were people camping in my garden. You know, it was like, and it was like crazy, you know, and. I never expected it to sort of blow up like this. I think I believed that it would be successful, but I didn't expect sort of overnight sort of, I don't even like to use this word, but I suppose it was a fame, I suppose. And then I suddenly couldn't really walk down the street anymore. And you know, London is a crammed city. Oh, yes. Like that's why I love being in LA. You know, it's all spaced out. Everyone drives everywhere. It's a bit more anonymous, you know.
Oh, just wait. The driving will get to you.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, London is kind of. It was like all the things I used to, you know, write in. I won't say where, but I used to write in a very specific place, and all of a sudden I couldn't write there anymore because, you know, I couldn't catch a run of steam, you know, because people were sort of coming up. But I don't mind. I love it when people come up. I don't sort of mind that. It's just a crazy adjustment. Even like coming off the plane into LA, there were just like people like I thought, Jesus, is there someone famous on this flight or something? But it was the people there, like people there waiting for me. It was just like mad, wow. You know. So it's a hell of an adjustment, yeah. You know, and it's a lot, yeah. You know, and it comes with positives and negatives, I think, yeah.
It's so beautiful that when you do something that's so personal and so specific, and then you learn it's kind of universal.
Yeah, that is, and I sometimes it's like the state of the world that this is the most popular sort of show. I'm like, what is going on? You know, like yeah. I think you know, I think the world is going through a sort of existential cosmic sort of angst, I suppose, at the moment, I guess. But, you know, I think there is a lot of, I think people are feeling it right now. And I think the fact that this is resonating kind of shows that, I think.
Yeah. Again, it is such a wonderful show. The good news is it's on Netflix, so you can watch it again and again. And then watch Wedding. What's the other movie?
Oh, no, don't worry about that one.
No, we're all going to
no, that's on
watch it.
Disney. No, don't worry about that. No, that's
It's
a folk.
on another platform, but you can look it up to see the range.
No, just watch Baby Reindeer. No. And if you watched it, watch it again. No, you don't want to throw it. No, I can't do that.
We'll cut that out of the video. I want to thank you all for being a wonderful audience. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.